Hi everyone, my name is Emily Rosmus. I'm the Education Coordinator here at the Ned Smith Center for Nature and Art. With the official start of winter just around the corner, I'm sure you're starting to wonder how to best decorate your home and surroundings for the season. More and more lately, people are looking to natural sources on how to properly decorate, so today we're going to make natural wreaths to decorate our homes. Welcome to our Ned Talk. So our goal for today in making our wreaths is to use as many natural sources as possible and keep the man-made materials as minimal. So to do this, we're going to use wire wreath frames that we can reuse every year, and I'll go through the other resources that we're going to need to make our wreaths. When you're collecting your natural branches and other objects, you always want to take into account what you are collecting and how much of it is still available. So this holly bush is pretty small, so I don't want to cut too much off of it. And also keep in mind things like berries are actually food for things like birds and mammals. So you don't want to take all the berries off of a certain tree because that is going to be food for the winter for some of those animals. To get started, let's talk about what we're going to need to make our wreaths. So first of all, to clip the natural branches, we are going to need some clippers, and I highly recommend gloves. We're going to be dealing with things like holly and different kinds of conifer trees, so they're going to be very prickly, so definitely gloves. Once you have those two, you want to go collect some branches. So I have a full basket here. That's probably what you're going to need, something like an overflowing basket like I have here, of assorted materials to be able to make our wreaths. So I have a lot of holly, as you can see. I have some winter berries. I like things like some dried out goldenrod flowers. I think they make really nice accents. Other things like spruce trees. We have some Norway spruce, some white pine, that kind of thing. The only conifer I can for sure tell you want to avoid is something called eastern hemlock. That's actually the kind of tree I have behind me. And the reason you don't want to use that is because the needles dry too quickly and they end up falling off the branch. So you're just going to end up with a big mess if you use that in your wreath. I also think it's nice to grab things like pine cones of different sizes that we can hot glue onto the wreath later. The other materials that you'll need for wreath making are, of course, a wire frame for your wreath. You can use any size, but today we're going to be using 12-inch frames. You're going to need some floral wire. It's a pretty thin gauge that you can manipulate easily. You'll need wire cutters, of course, scissors, ribbon of your choice, so I have several different kinds, and it's really up to you as to what color or how thick you want. You'll need a hot glue gun if you do want to attach things like berries or pine cones. And lastly, I recommend also having some floral tape just to tape up any rough ends that the wire might leave. Once you have all your materials in place, you're going to start to trim some of your branches into the size you need for your wreath. So for a smaller wreath like this, you're going to want branches about this length, something that would nicely lay around the wreath. But you also want to take off some of the lower branches so that you have somewhere to grip and to tie onto the wreath. So do that with all of your branches to go ahead and get everything set up before you start tying them on. Next, you want to grab your floral ribbon, and you want to secure it to the wreath somehow. Usually I find it easiest to kind of wind it through the different levels a few times and then kind of twist it together like a twist tie at the end. So once you have that secured and it's not really going anywhere, you will start to grab the branches that you cut earlier and just layering them on top of each other. You want to make sure you have pretty full bundles. You can add some accents, grab some goldenrod, and remember we also have those berries and pine cones that we can add later, so keep that in mind as you're designing. But once you have a nice little bundle of a few twigs or branches, you'll just lay it on the wreath. And your wire frame will have a convex and a concave side. So the one you want to lay your branches on cups under, so the branches should lay in that nice little groove. So make sure you're working on that side to lay the bundle down. And then you're simply going to wrap the wire around, making sure you wrap high enough up on the branch that they are going to be secured in by that wire. And it doesn't have to look the prettiest right now. You can go up a little further than you think you should, because you're going to be layering the bundles on top of each other, so you're not going to see these wires down here. So you're just going to continue to make these nice little bundles, alternating what kind of materials you're using to keep it mixed up in your wreath, maybe grabbing a larger one, a smaller one here and there. And when you layer them on, you want to make sure you're laying them a little bit on top of the last one, not too far to cover up too much of the details. And then you'll simply wrap the next one, making sure you're wrapping tight enough to really secure it. And you're just going to keep doing this the entire way around the wreath until you meet the other end, and we'll go over how to secure that last one in place when we get there. So to finish it off, you want to take your last bundle and just tuck it behind that first one that you put on. It might be a little tricky, but you still want to loop it over, not catching that first bundle. Just a few times, usually 3 or 4 times will be fine. And then you will cut off a small length of wire using your trimmers. And then after you loop it over the last time, same thing as you started, you're just going to choose 2 or 3 of the frames on your wreath and just twist it back and forth, kind of knotting it into itself to secure it. And once you have that, you can kind of fluff around. You can see if there are any branches that kind of need trim to open up the inside. If anything's stray on the outside, you can trim it off. And that is the base of your new natural wreath. To finish up your wreath, you'll take that hot glue gun and you can simply hot glue your pine cones and any extra berries that you want onto your wreath. You can also use wire to attach them, but that's honestly a lot of hassle, so a hot glue gun is very simple to be able to attach those things. And the final piece is your bow. So you can just tie a simple bow, and then what I like to do is just twist a bit of florist's wire around the back of it, and then you want to position it. I left a nice gap here between the goldenrod blooms so that I can kind of space it nicely. Everything looks very even, and then working behind the bunches as much as possible so you don't cover them off, and obviously behind the bow in general. You can just wind the bow on. And same thing like when you put the last bundle on, you just want to secure the wire to the frame again. So once you have those hot glued on, you can kind of fluff your bow out a little bit, add some waves to it, and you want to pick it up at this point to make sure everything hangs nicely, make sure the bow is hanging in the right direction, make sure everything is symmetrical before you call it quits, before you unplug that glue gun. And there you have your beautiful natural wreath. And you can do this for any season. It doesn't just have to be winter. If you make one in the spring or the summer with some wildflowers, that would be lovely. It's not going to last quite as long because those flowers are going to dry out quicker, but it'll still be nice for a very quick decoration. You could do a fall themed one with some branches, maybe a few dried leaves or something you have that you found. So really it's a very diverse craft and it's a lot of fun to make. So like I said, you can reuse most of the man-made materials. All you have to do is at the end of the season, pull all of the branches and natural materials off, cut the wire, and then you can reuse the bow that you tied to it as well as the frame. So you can really use it again and again unless something happens to it. Well, I hope you had fun going out and foraging for some of the natural materials to make your wreaths. I hope that you've made some lovely decorations and now you feel confident and ready to welcome in winter properly. Thanks for watching our Ned Talk.